Blood and shards of glass littered the floor around me. My fist still hung in the air where my mirror once stood, something I used to take pride in. Now, I have to throw away every piece of it as well. When did everything start? How did it get this far? You know that won't get rid of me. I'm your guest. Even now, I can see the smirk on that damn reflection. Like hell you are. You've been ruining my life. I stomp my foot down, piercing skin onto the miniature blades. The bastard only clicks his tongue. Don't you know that breaking a mirror is bad luck? How many years of bad luck was it again? 7. Grabbing the piece embedded into my foot, I glare at the dark shadow in a warning. Only then does the misfortune materialize out of his cloak. The bad luck here is you, I interjected. If only the mirror would get rid of you, I grumble while throwing away the pieces into a plastic bin. Each reflection showed the ghost, a smug distorting his face. Maybe if you were smarter or more diligent, you could. Pretending to be bored of it all, he flickers in and out. Don't you remember the day that we met? I stopped throwing the pieces away, staring back at the disjointed mess in the bin. It was a month ago that I knew for sure. But that was back when I got crushed by a window cleaning platform and heard his voice for the first time. Back when I used to believe ghosts weren't real. How could I have been so foolish back then, believing it was gravity or just being unlucky? All of my favorite books and trinkets breaking, getting into so many more accidents, even the strange figures I saw before going to sleep I thought was just karma finally biting me back. Hell, not even the near-death accident didn't raise suspicion until that damn ghost laughed in my face. I'm an idiot. It doesn't even matter, I sigh. It probably has been longer than a month that I even found out. Time is lost, just like my sanity. Oh, how that breaks my heart. It was a joyous day for me, you know. He flickers into existence, barely human and vaguely familiar. While his features fall off his face, nothing stops how I can feel him from taunting me with every word. He smiles, far too sickly sweet. Your dear friend, what was her name again? Annabeth? He asked curiously, fading. Sweating and goosebumps frazzle my skin, forcing my eyes to dart towards my shadow. He is there. Maybe there's a resemblance to a bull within me. That's the only explanation why all I can see is red right now. What did you do to her? My hands are already around the shadow's throat, wrapping around nothing so tightly. There is blood. Yet all he does is smile again. It cuts through the shadow impossibly, ruining any sense of reason. I've done nothing but be her guest. The toothy smile brings to mind a Cheshire cat, but she saw you fitting enough of a host and handed me over to you. A shame, for she was the best host I've had thus far. What? Wait, are you telling me Annabeth cursed me? Stuttering, my hands retract as my mind whirls. No, that's impossible. It has to be. Why are you lying to me? She's my best friend. Do you genuinely see me as a curse? So many people loved my company. I'm quite popular, I'll have you know. He shrugs, ignoring everything else I said. Pinning down the shadow, my rage flares. Do you think I'm a complete moron? Why would Annabeth ever curse me? Something clicks. I lean forward in disdain. Do you think I would be stupid enough to curse my best friend? If you were to ask for my unfiltered opinions, I'd think you were the moron. Laughing as I hold him down tighter, he somehow leans in. I have to back away. She was smart. It was so easy to curse you, wasn't it? This must be some ploy to curse my best friend. But why? Why would this ghost have anything against Annabeth? She's so kind, overworking herself to the bone, but was still so willing to help fix my hair for another friend's wedding. Despite looking so sick, she was there for me. So what's your plan? You saw Annabeth months ago and decided that she's your new victim? I won't let you hurt her at all. I shouted at the figure on the ground. He laughs. Right in my face. It's like what I say is all a joke to him. In the end, isn't that what it is to him? Just a haunting figure from the depths of hell to torture me specifically? You're sorely mistaken if you think you caught my eye. Although, I must agree that you've caught my interest when you tried rationalizing everything I did that the world must have done. He slithers away from my grasp, intangible from the beginning. You are very good at lying to yourself, he whispers with a knowing smile. As if believing in ghosts without evidence is any better. How did you find me then? If you really wanted Annabeth, then why did you come for me? I ask. Pain sparks through my hands and I look down, finally noticing they're bleeding. I didn't even catch the shadow like I thought I did. Of course, I couldn't. Nothing that terror makes sense, not even his logic. As I've stated before, Annabeth didn't want a guest like me before. A pity, really. She was so petrified of every little thing I did, and she couldn't do a single thing about it. He drops his head down as if reminiscing about the good old days. Almost like you, but funnier, he teases. Is he serious? How would I know if he's lying or not? No, would a ghost even need to lie if they're free from everything? What if he's not lying? Taking a gulp of air, I try to swallow down the lump in my throat. Fine, let's say that I do believe you. How did Annabeth curse me? If he's not lying, then he would still say the same as before. He just needs to repeat his story. It was a joyous day, a wedding day if I remember correctly, he proclaims. That very same wedding? He's been haunting me for half a year and I only knew a couple of months ago. There really was no hope for me. Back then, she bewitched you with compliments and kind gestures. Turning over to the shattered pieces long forgotten, his form grew larger in the small reflection. Then she asked your reflection a simple question. The thought of a smile lingers. What question? My voice wavers as my mind scrambles. I can't remember for the life of me what the conversation was about. It must have mostly been about the wedding and the fact I asked for help last second. What words could have cursed me? My blood thrums far too long. I almost choke on the tension. What was it? By now, he had spread through the parts one didn't throw away. Black envelopes it all like a sinister fog. The smile grows sickly sweet. Surely you know best, right? He wonders. He knows. I'm Jennifer, my friends call me Jen, a 33-year-old single woman. No education, working in a bowling alley. No kids, no serious boyfriend. I'm not able to find myself a husband material guy. Since I lost my baby 5 years ago, my boyfriend left me. I've been single since. This time of year is the hardest part of the year for a single lady that doesn't even have a cat. What I called the kill zone, you get killed, or kill yourself. I used to walk at night through the cemetery after my evening shift, but not today, not on Halloween week. It's like this every year, the week before Halloween. It's nice to see the houses with all the Halloween decoration, but it scares me even though they are made of plastic and are fake ghosts. 7 more days of horror movies on television is why my mind is playing tricks on me. Plus, the temperature rose a bit, that's why there's fog everywhere, horror movie style. To add to all this, it's supposed to be the full moon this week. I don't like this time of the year, everyone trying to be funny by scarring other people. Every single year, kids are throwing garbage at my door and calling me the witch. No way I'm going to give them candy, with all the ghouls, the goblin, and the werewolf roaming the streets. It's the best way of getting raped and left for dead or getting killed. People finding you 2 or 3 months later, no thanks. You know when you have the feeling of being watched? Lately, I have this feeling every time I walk home from work. Last night, I was sure to be followed by some creep. When I turned around, I did not see anybody. The hair on the back of my neck raised straight up, goosebumps immediately. Since I'm not taking my usual path, it's taking me 10 minutes longer to get home. Tonight, I'm walking faster. I feel a weird vibe in the air that I don't like. Finally, in front of my house, I always prepare my keys before I get to the door. Jackie, a whispered voice. I even felt a chilling breeze in the back of my neck. I dropped my keys and turned around quickly. Again, nobody was there. I picked up my keys so fast and got in. I took a very long hot shower that night. The mirror was all foggy, but there was something written in the mirror. I could see the name Jackie written with someone's finger. Somebody was playing with me. I had such difficulty sleeping that night, but when I finally fell asleep. Weird dream I had all night. In my dream, I saw a teenage girl looking at me without doing anything but staring. Pale skin, wet hair, she's only wearing white clothes. Back from work again. When I came to the cemetery, I stopped short. I could not believe it, I wasn't sleeping, and there she was in front of me. It was only when she began to move her hand that I ran as fast as I could to the left. No way I could go through the cemetery after that. I managed to get home safely. I prepared my keys before opening the door, and there she was, in my house, in my face. As she opened her mouth, that's when I screamed so loud she vanished. The neighbor's outside light opened, and he squeezed his head out between the door and the door frame. "Are you okay?" asked the friendly neighbor. "Yes, thank you, a spider scared me," I said to the curious neighbor. That night, I called a friend to come to my house. I could not stay alone after those events. I brushed my teeth and realized there is someone in my bathtub. The curtains were closed, but I could feel her presence. The goosebumps are back. "Leave me alone," I shouted really loud. "I choose you," whispered the girl. "Get out of my house." As I told her, she disappeared before I opened the shower curtains. On the shower wall, I could read "Jackie in the cemetery," written in blood. In the morning there was a message in my coffee, "Cemetery." In the morning, I decided to get there to see if I could find something. I was curious why she said that she chose me. In the cemetery, I found a girl named Jackie Smith. She died in 2022 at 16 years old. Why did she choose me to scare the hell out of me? Somebody puts his hand on my shoulder, making my heart stop. "Hi," says the guy who take care of the cemetery. "So sad, poor girl. You know what happened to her?" "Yeah, got killed by her mother, stabbed to death. 13 times in the chest and the neck, dash." "Thank you, I got the pictures. I needed to cut it short. Her mother killed her, and then she chose me, why?" After work, I walked home like always and I went to the cemetery. I have goosebump on my body and the hair on my neck rise again, like every time she is near me. She's probably close, but I can't see her. The next morning I have an appointment with my doctor. Every year since I lost my baby I go see him, and he's telling me the same thing year after year. I tell him all about my dream, my hallucination. "You're too stressed, I'm going to give you pills. They're going to make you sleep," the doc says, "but there is something else. It might not be good for the baby." "Did you know you are pregnant?" "No." I was so surprised. "It's not possible." "Why is that?" asked the doc. "Because we took our precautions. It only takes one time," explained the expert. "Well, I have your test result right here in front of me. We can run these tests again if you want." "No, it's okay." "Do you have a name in mind?" "No, I didn't even know I was having a baby." "I have to go." As I was leaving the office he called me out. "Jennifer." "Yes," as I turned around. Jackie's a beautiful name for a girl. I was once a living soul, and now I am a spirit. I talk to my faded reflection in the mirror, trying to make myself feel better. I can move through walls and doors and float through the sky. I can hear and see things that no one else can, and I can feel the emotions of those who are still alive. But most of all, I can haunt the living and make them feel the terror that I feel. I floated through the halls of my old home which burned to a fire, I perished along with it. I've been here since I died weeks ago, and no one's been here since. At least I thought I was alone. I felt a presence around me, though I didn't see it, it was there. I paused, unsure of what to do next, then I heard a voice call out to me. A familiar voice, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I slowly floated in the direction of the voice only to find a woman standing in the middle of an empty room, a room in my house that I didn't even know existed. She was wearing a black dress, sort of like a funeral dress, except that wouldn't make sense because my funeral was days ago, and I don't even know this lady, though she seems familiar. She held a lantern with a faint light in her right hand, and she held out her left arm towards me, signaling for me to come with her. I took a deep breath and answered her call, moving towards her. As I did, the light became brighter until I was standing in a ball of yellow and white. She took me through memories, my memories, though I could not choose which one I could visit, the woman chose them for me. Who is she? She showed me them all, from me being in the hospital when I was born to the day I died. It was as if I was on the sidelines like on my soccer team. Speaking of which, I should visit them sometime. Before I knew it, I was at the scene of the crime, well, the night of it at least. Why would the woman take me here? It's not like there's anything here for me. My living self was inside of my old bedroom a day before it burned down, doing my physics homework peacefully with my best friend Cadence in the room. Come on, Cadence, you should ask him out, I said, closing my notebook and placing it inside of my bag. I'll help. I want to, but at the same time I don't. If you don't do it now, someone will eventually ask him to homecoming, I pointed out. Cadence paused. I suppose you're right. Of course I am. I'm your best friend, you idiot, I said. Dree, do you think I should go for it? She asked me. Obviously. I stood up. You're hot, he's hot, it would be amazing. Just ask him. She sat in her thoughts for a while, contemplating whether or not to ask him. Eventually, without saying a word, she packed her textbooks into her backpack and headed to my bedroom door, slamming it behind her. From my open bedroom window, I could see her walking onto the driveway and into a car that then drove off. Was she mad? Why was she mad? If only I knew it then. I remember not feeling like eating dinner. I was hungry, yes, but I didn't want to go downstairs. But I should have. After this, I saw myself go to bed at 10. Everything normal until 10:23 on the clock hit. Just as alarming as a school bell, and the realization of you being late to a strict teacher's class, the room filled slightly with smoke, then a small fire. I opened my eyes and could see the flames growing bigger. I quickly jumped out of bed and ran into the living room. I looked around and saw the fire alarm blaring and my parents shouting at me to leave the house. All in all, it was a terrifying situation that I will never forget, even after death. The fire only grew bigger and surrounded my bed, blocking all exits. I was terrified and had no idea what was going on. As the fire grew, I realized that I was trapped and that the only way out was to crawl out the window and onto the roof. I was shaking as I inched my way out the window, and then I was on the roof and I could finally breathe a sigh of relief. At least I thought there was. Then the roof caved in. I heard sirens and screams as everyone saw where I was standing. The wind whipped through my hair, and eventually through my body. Then I fell. My heart pounded as the wind threw me, the roof giving up beneath me. Fear and exhaustion hit me at once, and I remember almost feeling like I could fly, like I was weightless, but then the fear rushed back as the ground rushed towards my face like an exhilarating race. I fell into the fire, all because of her. The flames danced around me as I scanned my surroundings as I tried to comprehend what happened. I didn't even move, I didn't want to. I was afraid that even one wrong move would ruin my chances of survival. But that's not what ruined it. She ruined it. This was all her fault. I saw her as I fell, standing on the sidewalk with my family, staring in my direction and smirking. I didn't realize why until I fell all the way down. Before my vision went hazy, through the shriveled and burned walls, I saw her. My body couldn't respond before paramedics got to me before I passed out. I saw Cadence holding gasoline and matches in her hands. In the echoing canyons of the Rocky Mountains, within the shadowy confines of the once thriving coal mining town of Ravenwood, lived the enigmatic artist Aria Winters. With long, flowing charcoal black hair and emerald eyes that seemed to hold the secrets of the rugged gorge, she captivated the townsfolk. Whispers and speculations about her abounded, suggesting she possessed an otherworldly talent, the ability to capture on canvas the tales whispered to her by the departed. Ravenwood clung tenaciously to the edge of the abyss as if it were a resilient survivor, enduring the relentless march of time and the unforgiving forces of nature. Its twisting streets wound through the town like complicated passageways, often concealed by a perpetual mist that added an air of mystery to an already eerie setting. At the heart of Ravenwood lay the remnants of the once prosperous coal mines, their ominous entrances serving as solemn reminders of the town's tumultuous history. These abandoned shafts stood as silent witnesses to the tragedies that had unfolded within their depths, their admissions now concealed by gnarled roots and tangled weeds, nature's attempt to heal the scars of the past. Aria's art studio, discreetly nestled at the town's edge, served as a sanctuary where dark, vivid hues intermingled on canvases teeming with haunting imagery. Often, she would sit for hours, her gaze fixed on a blank canvas as if awaiting a secret from another realm. And then, as if guided by an unseen hand, intricate scenes of ancient sorrows and unsolved riddles would materialize on her canvas. Each stroke of her brush carried the weight of a story, a revelation that frequently led to the unearthing of long-buried secrets. As Aria delved deeper into the enigmas shrouding Ravenwood, she found herself in conversation with spirits drifting in and out of her studio. One such encounter transpired on a stormy night as the wind howled through the narrow streets and the rain beat against her windows. Aria huddled over her easel, her hands trembling as she awaited whispers from the other side. Amid the storm, the apparition of an older man materialized before her, his form flickering in and out of existence. "Aria," he murmured, his voice a faint echo of the wind. "There's a tale buried deep within the mines, a story of greed and betrayal that the earth refuses to forget. Help me exhume the truth so that my spirit may find peace." Aria's emerald eyes widened, reflecting the flicker of the ethereal figure before her. "What happened in the mines, old man?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, her hand reaching for her palette knife. The spirit's translucent form wavered as if reliving the memories that bound him to the earthly plane. "A collapse," he rasped, the sound carrying a weight of sorrow. "The miners, driven by greed, dug deeper than they should have. Darkness took hold, and we paid the price for our foolishness." Aria's brush danced across the canvas, capturing the essence of the older man's tale in shades of darkness and desperation. The scene unfolded before her, revealing the harrowing tragedy that had haunted the town for decades. As the painting neared completion, the ghost's form began to fade, but not before whispering his gratitude into the stillness of the studio. The next day, the townsfolk awoke to find Aria's latest masterpiece prominently displayed in her studio window. The painting depicted the haunting scene of the coal miner's misfortune, revealing subtle details that had gone unnoticed. Word spread like wildfire, drawing the attention of local authorities who, despite their initial skepticism, found themselves unable to deny the uncanny accuracy of Aria's art. As restless spirits sought solace in Aria's ability to give voice to their silent pleas, she found herself entangled in a web of unsolved murders and long-buried secrets that had plagued Ravenwood for generations. With each whispered tale, Aria embarked on a journey to uncover the truth behind the town's darkest enigmas, delving into the shadows of its past to bring closure to the tormented souls that echoed through the canyon walls. Yet, with every mystery solved, Aria's world became increasingly entrenched with the secrets of the dead. The weight of their stories bore down upon her, leaving an unforgettable mark on her soul. While the townsfolk hailed her as a savior, Aria remained haunted by the knowledge that her gift was both a blessing and a curse, bridging the gap between the living and the departed, a pipeline for the unresolved accounts of the afterlife. On a fateful night, as the moon hung low in the sky and an eerie stillness settled over Ravenwood, Aria felt an unfamiliar chill encompass her. In the dim light of her studio, the ghostly apparition of her future self materialized before her, gently guiding her hand as she painted her final masterpiece. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she captured the vivid scene of her demise, every detail etched onto the canvas with poignant urgency. The following morning, the townsfolk awoke to an unnerving silence. Concerned whispers spread as they rushed to Aria's studio, only to find the door ajar and an eerie hush. With bated breath, they stepped inside to witness a chilling sight that would forever alter Ravenwood's history. There, in the soft morning light, lay Aria, cradled in the embrace of her final creation. Her lifeless form rested peacefully, a paintbrush clutched tightly in her hand, while the painting beside her depicted the haunting vision of her very own tragic end. Aria's death remained shrouded in mystery, much like the puzzles she had unraveled during her lifetime. The circumstances surrounding her passing were as elusive as the whispers that had guided her hand through countless haunting paintings. Some speculated that the weight of the town's secrets had taken its toll, leaving her spirit weary and her heart heavy with the burden of the departed. Others whispered of a darker force at play, suggesting that the restless spirits she had communicated with had somehow claimed her as one of their own, beckoning her to join them in the ethereal realm. Rumors swirled, weaving tales of spectral encounters and ominous premonitions that had haunted Aria in the days leading up to her tragic passing. In the days that followed, the people of Ravenwood commemorated Aria's memory, honoring her as a guardian of the town's darkest secrets and a martyr to the mysteries that had long plagued their community. Her final painting, a chilling testament to the extent of her gift, served as a reminder of the delicate veil that separates the living from the realm of the departed, a testament to the price she had paid to bring closure to the restless souls of Ravenwood. Ginny laid at the center of her cold, bleak void. A single source of illumination, her phone screen, brought a bit of contrast to the blanket of darkness that cocooned her. She robotically scrolled her screen, feeding her dopamine addiction. A soft chuckle filled the space as the echoes of a comical interaction faded into nothingness. Perhaps this was the only way she could silence the harsh tones in her life. She continued scrolling through her feed, hunting for content to sate her addiction. Suddenly, a notification popped up on the screen. She swiped down to put the notification in full view. Oh! It's just a birthday doodle from my favorite search engine. At least one person still cares for me in this life. She closed the notification bar to continue with her hunt when another immediately popped up. It was a text message this time. Who is texting me at this hour? Do I perhaps have a person I keep awake at night? Well, a girl can dream. She pulled up the notification bar again to see it was not a number she knew. She opened the message. What she read sent shivers down her spine. She reread it to confirm it wasn't a mistake. How is this possible? Is this truly from her? No. It can't be. She gazed at those words again, critically analyzing them. It sounds like her, but is it? She read them again, but this time aloud so that her ears could confirm what her eyes showed her. "Happy birthday, my inny winnie Ginny. You are the only genie that we need. I hope you are making your wishes come true. Keep on at it. Love you, your #1 devotee." What was this? Was somebody playing tricks on her? She angrily typed, "Who is this?" and anxiously waited, staring at the screen so aggressively that she could have poked holes in it. On reception, the bubble animation showing the other end was typing danced on her screen. Her chest felt heavy, but her eyes were still glued on the dance as she awaited the response. Then it came. "I am your mother, silly. Don't you know your mother? Or have you forgotten our tradition, my little star?" Ginny couldn't process the range of emotions she was experiencing. Was it anger, sadness, curiosity, disgust? They seemed to be so many, so she let her hands express and be led by them. "Listen here, you psycho. I have no time for these stupid games you are playing. If you have nothing better to do other than pretend to be my dead mother, then something is wrong with you. I bet you are an unemployed, bitter man living in his parents' basement doing this as some sort of YouTube video for your 6 followers, thinking it's funny. Let me tell you, it's not. You better get your act together, or you are going to die alone without accomplishing anything else other than being an utter disappointment." She pressed send, assured whoever was on the other side would drop this stupid prank once they received her very encouraging and motivating words, but how wrong she was. A minute later, she received a reply. "How could you speak like this to your mother, young lady? Have you forgotten how to speak to your elders? Life on your own seems to have eroded your manners and respect. I will personally visit you to correct this willful attitude of yours. Speaking of which, Ginevra, how messy is your room as we speak? Do you have a pile of dirty clothes on your floor? I am sure you do. It must be at least a week's worth of laundry. What about your meals? Are you eating right? Don't tell me you are living on packets of instant noodles. I think a visit is much needed. Otherwise, you will end up wasting away." Ginny didn't know how to reply to the mysterious stranger as they had mirrored her mother's tone and temperament to the point that they truly were her. "Wait, how did they know I have a week's laundry on my floor? Must be a lucky guess." Ginny decided not to respond, denying the other party ammunition to continue the conversation. She went to bed convinced it was a prank after some heavy self-hypnosis and reassurance that when tomorrow came, she would not have to deal with this. She slept peacefully, but a part of her was still bothered by the interaction. The next day, Ginny went to work as usual. Her day was like any other pencil-pushing day. Then lunch break came and a message from fake mom with it. "Hello, my little shooting star. Hope your day is going great. I am here at your house, and as expected, you have dirty laundry, dirty dishes and no food. How do you live like this? Don't worry, I have taken care of everything that was amiss. You are welcome, and I love you. I will see you tonight." After Ginny finished reading, she found herself in her car driving to her house. On arrival, she looked at every opening, scanning for any signs of a break-in, but there was none. She opened her house and headed straight to her refrigerator to find it was restocked and full of life, unlike how she left it. She then walked to her room to see all her dirty clothes had been cleaned and neatly arranged. What was this? Was her mom genuinely alive? Her doubts were developing doubts. Initially, she was so sure it was a silly prank, but now she wasn't. To clear her doubts and make sure whoever was speaking to her was her mother and not some weird sicko, she installed CCTV cameras that would confirm her situation, especially if the fake mom did not show up as promised. When the sun set and night came, Ginny set the table ready to receive her, but she never showed up. Instead, a persistent cold air invited itself and made itself comfortable. Ginny was disappointed but, at the same time relieved. She went to bed after chowing down the feast of familiar foods she missed. How did this fake mom know her favorites? She lay down doing her scrolling ritual when suddenly a message popped up. Did you enjoy dinner? I hope you did. I enjoyed making it. Spending the evening with you and watching you eat was the highlight of my day. It is now time for you to get some rest. So turn off your phone and have a rest. Good night. Immediately after, Ginny felt a cold breeze blow, and the chill that had invited itself disappeared. In her ears, she heard a subtle echo of the words good night which brought goosebumps onto her before it completely disappeared. A slight creak was heard at the door afterwards. That was probably due to that gentle breeze that blew, Ginny said to herself before she resigned herself to bed. She woke up the following day to a good morning text from the fake mom. The mom promised to make another meal for her. Today, Ginny decided to miss her everyday drudgery to finally uncover this mysterious fellow. She sat on her bed and powered on her laptop so that she could surveil her footage in real time. She was unsure how long it would take, so she scrolled as she waited. Then something bizarre happened. Her door opened and closed itself. Shook by this action, she watched closely. A few minutes later, her refrigerator opened by itself. Meat and vegetables were flying out, placing themselves on her kitchen counter. Ginny could not believe what she saw. Was she hallucinating? She tiptoed to the kitchen to confirm that what she saw was real. She could hear the knife meeting with the cutting board reverberating everywhere. When she got there, she witnessed a floating knife, and it startled her that she passed out. When she woke up, she found herself in a room with a translucent silhouette of her mother holding her hands tight. Her mother's hands were cold and icy, but for her, they felt warm and full of life. I am sorry, my daughter, for startling you. I did not mean to scare you. But it is good as you have stared death in its face and survived. Now it's time that you arise. The translucent figure of the mother slowly disappeared as a carbon copy version of Ginny appeared to herself. You have been asleep for far too long, it is now time you wake up. You should no longer fear death, for you have looked at it on its face. The accident happened, and your parents are gone, but you no longer have to sleep. It all went dark for her before Ginny opened her eyes to find herself in a hospital bed wrapped in bandages. She finally awoke from her 5-year coma. For as long as I can remember, my name has been Teresa. I had never had a reason to question this until tonight when Mom called me Margaret. I wouldn't have thought twice about it until I asked, Margaret? And she answers, I meant Margaret, Teresa. It hangs between us as we stand across from each other in between the kitchen and the dining room, still posed from the conversation we had been having. My eyebrows furrow slightly, lips mouthing the name again. Mom's eyebrows rise slightly, lips parting in exasperation. Mom was not one to make mistakes. She was a woman of a strict and careful nature, always keeping the house tidy, her bookshelves organized, and her conversation straightforward and articulate. She was flustered by this mistake, and it made me wonder, who is Margaret? A piercing whistle breaks the silence growing between us, and we both jump slightly. Mom quickly turns as if she's taking the opportunity to leave the conversation and walks into the kitchen. She removes the kettle from the burner and pours steaming water into the teapot on the tray on the counter. She places the small lid back on the teapot, removes 2 teacups from the cupboard, and places them on the tray next to tiny spoons and the honey jar. This was a part of our nightly routine: dinner, cleanup, tea, and books by the bay window overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. She says nothing as she places the tea tray on the table between the large chairs at the window. I watch her quietly but diligently, waiting for her to say something else. I step closer and swallow the fear beginning to form in my throat. Who is Margaret? I ask. I said Teresa. She nearly cuts me off. Come, sit, Let's read. I listen because I've never been one not to. There was never much room to not to. I take my seat and pick up my book, glancing at Mom's to see if perhaps hers was about a character named Margaret, and that's what caused the confusion. She's reading Pride and Prejudice, and I know there isn't a Margaret in it. We sit quietly and read as I repeat the name silently in my head, in her voice. Margaret. 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 Star. I spend a week obsessing over Margaret. Mom and I are not close, we coexist and get along. We have our small rituals, and we even go out for tea occasionally, but we don't have conversations about deep matters, including things like who Margaret is. So instead, I thumb through family photo albums, search the neatly filed document cabinets that house birth certificates and social security cards, and even Google the name. My efforts are fruitless, so I turn to the last resource I had ever thought I'd use, calling the dead. Parallax Funeral Home rebranded 2 years back, and when they remerged with a new logo and color scheme, they also announced a new service, a phone call away. You can call in, converse with an operator medium, and connect with someone you felt had left the earth too soon. I had never used the services, nor had I been interested. The only person in my life to die thus far was Grandma on Mom's side, but we weren't close, I barely knew the woman. She would show up to birthday parties with a sour face and leave a card with a crisp $10 bill in it without saying a word to either Mom or myself. So, 1 week and 1 day after being called Margaret, I gathered the stash of $10 bills I'd been saving from the birthday cards, along with money from babysitting, dog walking, and garden weeding, and begin walking toward the funeral home. It's a short walk, and on the way there, I calculate how long I have until Mom is back from work. I'm on fall break, but she hadn't taken off work since it was only a Friday. It is 11:07 a.m. right now. She is off at 3 p.m. and will be home by 3:20 p.m. I'm unsure how long phoning the dead takes, but I'm hopeful it's less than 4 hours. Parallax Funeral Home is nestled against a row of trees, gold-kissed leaves shimmering in the late morning sun. It's November, but warm for the day, and the beams feel reassuring on my face as I enter the home. A receptionist is perched at the desk in the center of a large room neatly decorated with flowers, memorable eulogies, and framed photographs of the generations of family members who have run the home. She greets me with a warm smile. Hi there. How can I help you? Hi, suddenly, forget what the services are called. Do I simply say, I'm here to call the dead, or I'm here to try and find Margaret? I am here to make a phone call. I think. I decide. Oh, yes, certainly. Do you know who you're calling? She turns toward her computer, typing on the keyboard as she speaks. I have a first name and, I guess, a general location, but that's all. She looks up at me from the computer screen. That might be a bit tricky. Let's set you up, and then we can settle the bill if you succeed. I nod, and the receptionist rises from her seat, stepping out from behind the desk. She leads me to a phone booth in the corner, somewhat private but with a window facing the desk. She unlocks the door and lets me in. So you'll pick up the phone and press 0. Once you reach an operator, you can give details about who you're trying to reach. If they can channel them, you'll be connected, otherwise, you may have to try again another time. I nod in understanding, and she gives me another warm smile before closing the door. Silence takes over the booth, and I hear my heart beating. I pick up the phone, and the line buzzes. I click 0, hear a beep, and it rings. Operator, a voice picks up on the second ring. My stomach twists at the reality of what is happening. Oh. Hi, I'm trying to reach someone, I squeak out. Name? The operator asks. She sounds bored or maybe irritated, and I wonder if I'm reading into it too much. Margaret. That's all I've got, I start. I give her the location of where I live and the context in which I heard the name. What's your mother's name? The operator asks. April Weston. Date of birth? Location of birth? I give her the details, and the phone goes quiet for a full minute. I consider asking if she's still there, but then she speaks up suddenly. I've found a Margaret with a relation to April Weston. Would you like me to put you through? Why yes, I say quickly, my heart speeding up. One moment, the board operator clicks several buttons on the phone as if dialing a number, and I'm sent to another set of rings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I switch the phone to my other ear. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What are dead people doing that they take this long to get to the phone? My nerves begin twisting into irritation, and then someone picks up. I freeze. She speaks, Teresa. Star. It's me, the voice on the other line crackles. It's soft and young, perhaps a bit weary. Margaret. My heart feels as if it all but stops inside my chest. There's a knot in my stomach and a buzzing in my head. Who are you? I ask. She's quiet on the other line, this Margaret. There's static, and I wonder if it's normal. It makes sense, calling the dead and all. I'm your sister. My sister? I'm not sure if I say it or think it. I was an only child, it was just Mom and me. Listen, Teresa, more static. I look toward the receptionist as if I can signal the problem and get confirmation that it's normal, but she's shuffling papers behind the desk. I'm having a hard time hearing you, I tell her, my nerves twisting again. My mind floods with questions. When was she born? When did she die? How did she die? Why didn't Mom ever tell me about her? How does she know about me? Can she see me from up there? Can you hear me? Margaret asks. Yes, I say quickly. Okay. Teresa, you need to get out. I look around the phone booth and then the funeral home. Get out of where? Her house, Mom's house. You have to get out, leave, and find somewhere else to live. What? Why? Silence. More static. Because, she killed me. Mom killed me. Layla Ackerman, the lowly puddle of sobs, sat shaking on the floor of her dingy bedroom. The sterling silver hairbrush lay at her side. The once beloved heirloom had rusted over in a matter of minutes, covered by the same substance splotched over the girl's bibbed night dress. Her hysterics were not new. Her illness was not new, either. But the consequences of Layla's condition have never been as contagious as they are now. Layla and Cecilia Ackerman are close, as is expected from two girls who share a birthday and have the same appearance. They shared clothes, dolls, and dreams, but the difference in their personalities would prove that fulfillment in life is not a universal feat at social events. Cecilia's most lavish gowns would look ordinary on Layla. No matter how loudly she spoke, any words became whispers in Cecilia's sunny cadence. Layla was a ghost and she knew this. The spooked expressions on partygoers' faces when she would make her rare social appearances were enough to prove this. One such victim of Layla's demeanor would be the dark-haired man who had spent months courting her sister. Within her wide variety of suitors, Vincent Roth was Cecilia's favorite. Handsome, well-educated, set to inherit the family textiles company, and, of course, completely and utterly obsessed with her. It only took 7 months for the couple to establish an engagement. Although Layla would never admit it, finding a phantomesque disposition to be much more convenient, her first encounter with her future brother-in-law hurt her deeply. She could identify the man just based on her sister's words and descriptions, but by the petrified look on Vincent's face when he turned and saw her, it was clear they had not been given equal reputations. The man's face melted out of fear that the woman in front of him was who he was going to marry. Even though Layla had heard so much about him, he didn't even know she existed. When Cecilia appeared, she turned shock into confusion and eventual relief, but no amount of apologies and polite utterances could drown out the mind of Layla Ackerman. Shadows are not words, they are merely smudges in the ink, distractions to the story. Once Roth had revealed himself as a promising prospect, any attempts to persuade Layla into social affairs were thwarted. The family had grown to appreciate the girl's hermetic nature, as it hid away any liability within the courting process. No one had expected her to appear at the event, except the maids who helped her dress an hour prior, and even they had not known until that point. The night progressed with Cecilia's humored remarks and desperate attempts to explain her sister's existence to Vincent. The girl's parents engaged in hushed bickering, upset for a reason they knew wasn't good enough. They had placed more trust in her condition than in her person, but really, what's the difference? Even though nobody said anything to her as they retired for the night, she had heard their plea. Kindred eyes sang her a tired song, one that swore her to disappear again, at least until the day of the wedding. She kept this promise well. She continued being a stranger within her own home, and being strange in general, really. Only her family, the house staff, and her ensuite mirrors had access to her dim presence, something only Cecilia took advantage of. Whenever she found herself in her most sullen hour, Layla had grown to expect a knocking on her door. When they had gotten separate rooms when they turned 15, Cecilia began sneaking into her sister's room at night. She had missed her greatest confidant and the feel of having her hair brushed, something the maids did too roughly. Even though Layla had become a rarity to most of the people in the Ackerman house, she was never as such to Cecilia. With her, she was real. Despite being advised to get her beauty rest on the eve of her wedding, Cecilia still made the trip to Layla's room during their hour of secrets. Their nightly visits would come to an end after this, and after the marriage, they would be separated by kilometers instead of walls. Once again, nobody broached the topic, it would be easier not to. While her sister spoke about her wedding, Vincent, and her dreams of the future, Layla stayed silent. Her quietude wasn't abnormal, she was a girl of few words. But this time, no amount of distracting words or stories could lift the heaviness of her own thoughts. The sentiments of her silent hours would no longer heed to distraction. As the ebb and flow of Cecilia's hair ceased, a thickened silence emerged. She had no time to panic as she turned to face her sister, falling back among the fragrant hoots of owls that painted the night. Their subtle song of morning flitted through the air, accompanied by the weak ascension of Layla's sobs. The sterling silver brush that had been gifted to her by her mother lay limp and red by her side. Layla's cries eventually joined the rusty hairbrush, falling limp and numb. She didn't feel much of anything anymore. The voice of the girl's mother broke the quiet serenade of the sunrise. Cecilia was meant to be preparing for the wedding, which meant no time could be taken for granted. Still calling out for her, she knocked on the girl's bedroom door. "Cecilia, are you in here?" she spoke. "Yes, I'm coming," a sleepy tone replied. This proved to be a good enough answer, as Mrs. Ackerman's steps retreated back downstairs. Layla peered into the silver mirror that had sat atop Cecilia's dresser, pure and unmarred. Its eyes narrowed, godly and just, something Layla no longer had the right to comprehend. By the time her mother had returned, ready to knock again as a final warning, Layla was already opening the door. With brightened eyes and a lilted voice, she spoke, "I'm ready." If only they knew. The sun beat down on my body as I lay on the ground at the 500-meter firing point of the classified range. Only a select few knew the secret location, interrupted by distant gunfire. Aiming down the scope, I took a deep breath and concentrated on my target, aware of the rifle's weight in my hands. My heart pounded in my chest as I readied myself to aim, acutely aware that the outcome of this moment could determine whether I lived or died. The air was thick with anticipation, every sound magnified in the silence. I focused on my target, the weight of my weapon heavy in my hands. Everything depended on this shot. As I lay in the grass, I noticed a small, white peg beside me with the number 4.4 inscribed. Looking up, I saw the same number repeated on the distant but above the 6-foot square target. Despite the late May dusk, my infrared sniper scope, fixed above my rifle, provided a clear picture of the entire canvas. Pale blue and beige colors divided the target, with a 6-inch semicircular bull that appeared as large as the half-moon in the darkening sky above the estuary. I set my sights on the inner left shot, carefully positioning myself and lining up my shot. I pulled the trigger, but to my disappointment, the bullet missed the target, and my attempt was unsuccessful. I raised my eyes and observed the fluttering yellow and blue wind flags. As I crouched behind the sniper scope, I made minor adjustments to my aim, considering the wind's direction and strength. Once I felt confident, I nestled myself, placing my index finger inside the trigger guard and onto the trigger curve. I took a deep breath, held it for a moment, and then exhaled, controlling my breathing as I prepared to take the shot. With a soft squeeze, I pulled the trigger, and the sound of the shot echoed across the desolate range. The target disappeared underground, and the dummy emerged. As I examined the object more closely, I couldn't help but notice that the black panel, which previously had a bull image on its bottom left, now had a bull image on its bottom right. The shift in position of the bull image was a surprising and exciting detail that caught my attention. From behind and above, the range officer exclaimed, "Excellent." When the target reappeared, I repositioned myself to get a better aim. I wiped my gun hand against the side of my trousers to rid it of any sweat or moisture. My fingers curled around the pistol grip, feeling the cool metal beneath my skin. With a slight change to my stance, I planned for 5 rapid rounds, splaying my legs an inch further apart to ensure stability. Let's see if that causes fade. Upon examining the weapon, its state-of-the-art features amazed me. The gun boasted an unparalleled ability to make distant enemies appear vulnerable. Its super-accurate target system, which was complemented by making this possible a designed, curved aluminum hand grip at the back of the butt. The grip extended under my armpit and gripped the stock into my shoulder, providing maximum stability and precision with each shot. I positioned the adjustable pinion below the rifle's center of gravity, which allowed me to secure the stock into its grooved wooden rest, further enhancing its stability and accuracy. The manufacturer assured me that the weapon is accurate at 500 m if I wait 2 seconds between shots. They replaced the bolt action with a 5-shot magazine. Still, I'm worried about the delay for my first shot. The colonel advised a 300-meter range for the mission, with the target moving away from me. With this valuable information, I felt more self-assured about achieving success in my task. Ready? Yes. I'll give you a countdown from 5. Now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fire. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves as I positioned myself for the shot. The ground beneath me trembled, almost as if it were mirroring the tension I felt inside. With a practiced hand, I aimed my firearm and squeezed the trigger. The surrounding air seemed to vibrate with the sound of the 5 copper-nickel bullets as they whizzed through the atmosphere, each one hurtling towards its intended destination with deadly accuracy. The world seemed to hold its breath as the bullets closed in on their target until, with a resounding thud, the target fell, signaling my success. I hit the target, but only 4 white discs appeared instead of 5. The last round was low. The range officer lowered his night glasses and remarked, "Thanks for the contribution. We sift the sand on those butts at the end of every year. Always aim for a minimum of 15 tons of lead and copper scrap from them. Good money." I got to my feet. My mentor appeared from the pavilion of the gun club and knelt to dismantle the rifle and its rest. His gaze met mine, tinged with criticism, as he spoke. "You were taking it fast. Last round was bound to jump wide." "I know, Colonel. I wanted to determine how fast I could go. I'm not blaming the weapon. It's a hell of a fine job. Now, I'd better get moving. You're finding your way back, aren't you?" Yes, and don't worry, you've got this. The range officer handed me a record of my shoot, 2 sighting shots and 10 rounds at each 100 meters up to 500. Damned good firing with this visibility. I'm grateful for your help. The clock tower displayed 9:15 as the firing stopped, and the red danger flag and signal drum lowered. I'd like to have bought you a drink, but I have an appointment. Can we hold it over until the next time I come up? The range officer nodded. We walked through the handsome facade behind the range of my car. We shook hands and said our polite farewells. I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, he asked as I climbed into my car. Oswald, I said, Lee Harvey Oswald.